I'm Stefan Buisman, a philosopher at TU Delft, and today we're talking about fairness in AI. A few years ago, Amazon wanted to automate its hiring process. So they took a large number of CVs from their history hiring software engineers and trained an algorithm to predict which resumes showed a good fit with the company and which should be rejected out of hand. When they started to test the algorithm, however, they noticed a shocking problem. Their AI hiring system rejected virtually every resume that contained the word woman. Due to inequalities in the data, ultimately the fault of hiring policies at Amazon itself, the algorithm had decided that only men are likely to be hired. Thus, women should be rejected, and while the designers of the AI tried to remedy this by forbidding it to look at gender, the algorithm kept finding creative ways to reject women anyway. Did you write horse riding as a hobby on your CV? Then you'd get rejected. Were you from an all-girls school? Again, rejected. Even the writing style was analyzed by the AI near the end, all to discriminate against women. Not because the computer was inherently sexist, but simply because the data it learned from showed this kind of bias. In other words, the decisions we make are far from ideal, and that gets reflected in the algorithms we train. That doesn't mean that we should simply accept that algorithms will be biased in these ways, as the blatant sexism of Amazon's hiring algorithm gives us reasons aplenty not to use it. And indeed, Amazon gave up on the project precisely because of this problem. However, far from all cases of unfair decision-making are noticed, even if all of them are problematic. And one of the problems is that we can't make algorithms less biased if we don't know what kinds of unfairness we're looking for and what our ideal end goal would be. For example, do we want a hiring algorithm to suggest equally many men as women? But what if there's a difference in skills and far more men have studied to become computer scientists than women? Should the algorithm still make decisions in equal numbers? Or is it fairer to make sure that the algorithm correctly identifies the top candidates regardless of their gender, and so is equally accurate for all groups? It wouldn't ignore good female candidates, but it also won't recommend hiring women when there are more skilled men applying. Is that fair? Aside from challenges in determining who is more skilled, it still might not be, as this could mean that the inequalities in some fields never get solved. Questions keep rising up, and as you can probably start to see, it's extremely difficult to determine when decisions are fair. That is reflected in the more formal measures of fairness which have been developed to test inequality in decision-making by algorithms. A simple measure here, called demographic parity, focuses not on the eventual number of candidates suggested, but on the chance of getting selected for the job. According to demographic parity, this chance should be the same whether you are a man or a woman, and similarly for other aspects on which you might be discriminated. So what Amazon should have aimed for was an AI that accepts, say, 20% of all resumes by men and 20% of all resumes by women. That might mean that the AI makes more mistakes for one group than the other, and leaves out qualified candidates from the one group to ensure the percentage is the same across the two. This has led to suggestions of other measures, such as the one known as equality of opportunity, which focuses on different aspects of fairness. On this metric, what matters is the chance of getting a correct, positive decision. In other words, Amazon's algorithm should make good recommendations equally often for both men and women. 75% of the qualified male candidates should get recommended by the algorithm, and 75% of the qualified female candidates should get recommended too. The trouble is that this already conflicts with the desire to hire men and women in equal proportions. In the unequal world we live in, there is no guarantee that there are similar numbers of qualified men and women applying for these jobs. And indeed, mathematically, it turns out to be close to impossible for an algorithm to do perfectly on both demographic parity and equality of opportunity metrics. Trade-offs have to be made. And they might not be enough to capture all forms of unfairness that algorithms can produce. The interaction between AI and the broader system they are part of can generate other forms, such as when the Google Maps algorithm redirects traffic around a traffic jam on the highway through a neighborhood on the edge of town. The extra traffic might make the area less safe, letting the drivers shave time off their journey at the expense of living conditions of the people in town. If the cars are actually faster through there, as with serious traffic jams, they might end up clogging the local roads, worsening the situation there without leading to time saving for the drivers. Is that a kind of unfairness, a negative outcome from the use of algorithms that we should take into consideration too? We won't focus on the technical measures any further here, but they do help to illustrate a more fundamental problem. What is it that we mean when we talk about fairness? What standards should hiring algorithms meet? And what about all other algorithms, such as those used in policing, content moderation, or healthcare? Do we mean the same thing when we ask for fair decisions in all these contexts, or does our notion of fairness shift with the context? Those are the questions we're asking in this MOOC. Thank you for watching,